to sincerely convey the message of La ilaha illallah to the world out of a sense of responsibility to Allah and out of a sense of responsibility towards His creation. Out of a sense of responsibility to Allah and a responsibility to His creation. To His creation. Because this we know very well, that our Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that none of you truly believes until they wish for their brother. What is the end of this? What they wish for themselves. Now, Imam Nawawi, rahimahullah, said when in context of this hadith that the brother mentioned, and this hadith is speaking of brother in a general sense of humanity. That the Prophet ﷺ saying you don't have really iman until you want for your fellow human being, brother in humanity, what you want for yourself. That we should be striving to want for humanity what we want for ourselves, which is what? What do we want? Jannah. That's it. That's the greatest achievement, Jannah. We want Jannah. So we should want for them Jannah. So that should push us as a responsibility that, look, I want you to go to paradise. I'm not doing it out of some want to feel good, that people are accepting Islam because of me. Who cares about that? The point is, I really want you to go to paradise as well. I know how beautiful Jannah is going to be. I know how great of a success is going to be. I know how much you don't want to go to hellfire. Reality, I know, maybe better than you, I know that you don't want to go to hellfire. So I'm doing this out of a sense of responsibility that I don't want to see you punished. This was the sense of responsibility that the Prophet ﷺ had. He had this responsibility. Why? How do we know this? He said, I am like one who stands at the edge of a fire and trying to keep people from going into it. But yet they are persistent in their desire to fall into it. So Prophet ﷺ really truly cared for human beings, that he wanted them to go to paradise and he did not want to see Allah's creation punished. For sure. That we should have a responsibility. That should become a responsibility on our souls. And that should affect us very much. It really should. When you see someone who does not believe in La ilaha illallah, it should sadden you. Because they don't know Allah. Allah gives them life in the morning and they don't even thank Him for it. Allah gives them food to eat and they don't thank Him for it. Allah gives them life and health and a heart and a brain and air and water, but they give their worship to someone else. And if you ask them who Allah is, they'll say, Allah, who's Allah? Are you serious? Allah. You don't know Allah. He's the reason you're here. Without Allah, there's no you. There is no you. So we should really feel that responsibility that we need to share that with them, at least. Now, with that vision has to be sincere. It has to be sincere. You have to have sincerity. You have to have sincerity in doing da'wah. In doing da'wah, you have to be sincere, that you sincerely want to fulfill your obligation to Allah and conveying the message of Islam, and you sincerely want to see people benefit. Because let me tell you, if there's no sincerity, you might as well just stop now. Because the shaitan is going to corrupt you, the shaitan is going to play with you, the shaitan is going to mess with you and going to turn you into something totally you never would recognize. Very easily. I've seen it happen to people getting involved in this da'wah. And Allah and their sincerity gets checked or questioned, and shaitan takes them on a whole nother road. Whole nother ballgame. You have to have sincerity. You have to be sincere about everything you do. And I mean, seriously, it has to be sincere for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because this is too hard of a job to not be sincere about it. I mean, realistically, for anyone who thinks that doing da'wah as a lifestyle is glamorous and, it's good to be, on TV and the internet and, all over the place and people looking at you like this and that and famous or whatever. Man, let me be the first to tell you that this is not what you want. I mean, there's no glory behind it. There's no vanity. It's not fun at all. It's hard, it's tough. I don't see my family a lot, what I mean? I spend 3/4 of the year gone. I'm constantly plagued by the threats of the shaitan to mess with my sincerity, to mess with my devotion, and to stop me from what I'm doing. I'm constantly harassed by this and that and the other. I mean, it's not easy. You go through a lot of fitna. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't do anything else because of the fact of the joy that I have inside of myself. That even with all the hardship, that the reality of Jannati fi Suduri is right there. My paradise is in my heart. And I realize how badly I want people to have this message. And I won't stop until I am stopped. Inshallah. So you need to be sincere. If not, I would have given up a long time ago. Long time. Also, you must obtain knowledge. You must obtain knowledge. Now, just saying to obtain knowledge is very broad. I mean, that can go on forever. Knowledge has no ends. It's expansive, is wider than the universe. There are no ends to knowledge. So I kind of try to label it down here, but why I'm saying that you have to have knowledge is that the Prophet ﷺ said, Kul, he was told by Allah in the Quran to say, Kul hadihi sabili, say this is my way. Ad'u ila Allah ala basiratin, that I call unto Allah with sure knowledge. Ana wa man attaba'ani wa subhanallahi wa ma ana min al-mushrikeen. And glory be to Allah, we are not of the mushriks, me and those who follow me say. So he said, was told to say, Qul hadihi sabili ad'u ila Allah ala basiratin, that I call upon Allah with basira. Basira is like deep knowledge, profound insight. He didn't just say things ignorantly about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's actually a sin. To speak about Allah with no knowledge. You can only convey that which you know. So gaining more knowledge is always a plus for the da'wah. And there are a couple of things that I want you to have knowledge of. The first one is knowledge of that which they are calling to. Knowledge of that which you're calling to. What are we calling to again? Tawheed. So you have to have knowledge of Tawheed. You need to understand Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. What does it mean? What are its implications? How can that affect me in giving my da'wah? Because Tawheed al-Rububiyyah is one of the greatest ways to establish the Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, subhanAllah, it's amazing. And once people get Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah is a given. If Allah is Rabb, then He is given worship. And then Tawheed al-Asma, the beautiful names of Allah, wa sifat, and His attributes. Number two, knowledge of the situation of the person to whom you're calling. What do I mean? I mean that you need to know a little bit about the person whom you're giving da'wah to, even if you just met them. And there are some ways that I'm going to give you, inshallah, hopefully we'll get there about doing that. Because if not, you don't want to run up on a, you watched my video, top 10 reasons Jesus isn't God. Now you think, you got this Bible thing down, and you run into, one of these textual critic professors in the streets. You don't know him, but all of a sudden you start banging him with a few Bible verses you learned off my video, and he embarrasses you on the bus in front of everybody. What did you just do? You just messed up da'wah for a lot of people. Now what happened? You went to go give him da'wah, and you ended up being the one getting the da'wah. You became the mud'i. And all the people around you were given da'wah, but not the right one. So you need to know who it is you're dealing with. Trust me. Are you going to get embarrassed? You might get, you might do more damage than you do good. But there are a couple of ways to feel people out. There are a couple of ways to rationally feel. I'm not saying it's always going to work out to your, there are people who are going to shock you and surprise you and all kinds of things, but you at least want to have a little feeler, and then you at least want to know how to get out of situations like that without causing too much of a mess. If you realize that you're outnumbered and outweighed, you need to know how to cut your losses and get out of them. Number three, how to give the call or make the sale. How to give the call, or I need to change that to close the deal. Not make the sale, close the deal. How to close the deal. How to give the call or close the deal. As I just said, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي وَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. Now, also 3 things that I want you to have knowledge of in giving da'wah. Ma'rifatullah. And this is the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is whom you're calling to. But I really want you to have this deeply understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not only for the benefit of getting da'wah, but it changes you. If you learn the tawheed of rububiyyah, if you learn tawheed of rububiyyah, it changes your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Really, it changes your relationship with Allah. And it changes your relationship with the world around you. Realistically, when you learn that Allah is Rabb and what that means, it changes your outlook. It changes one of the best alleviations of stress is to remind yourself that Allah is Rabb. Allah is Lord. That's it. I don't need to worry. Allah is Rabb. But if you understand the tawheed of Asma wa Sifat, the names and attributes of Allah, if you learn that Allah is not only Allah, but He is Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Al-Ghafur, Al-Wadud, Al-Latif, Al-Ghani, all of these beautiful names that we know Allah Azza wa Jalla with, it changes the quality of your ibadah. It really does change the quality of your ibadah. Now when you stand before Allah in salah, you really understand on a different level who you're standing in front of. This is why Aisha said that sometimes the Prophet's face would change color when he understood when it was time for salah. Because of the reality of the situation. Fatima radiallahu anha said this about Ali, that his face would change color at the time of salah. When he would go to make wudu, it would change color. He would become pale, and it was because of the fact that they were going to stand in front of Allah. That was a reality to them. You know how you feel when you're going to a big interview, like a big school interview, a job interview. You have the cold sweats and palms get sweaty, the nervousness breaks in, your stomach starts to hurt. This is how the companions used to feel when they stood in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They really understood we are standing in front of Allah. And that they gave them cold sweats and paleness and shivers and all of these things that we get in front of human beings. They got in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because they had this quality of ma'rifatullah. They knew Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the best that was capable to know. Number 2, ma'rifatun nabi, knowledge of your prophet. Knowledge of your prophet, you should know who the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was. You should know who he was. You should know about him. You should know how to tell people about him. You should know how to relate him to their lives. You should know how, okay, you tell me about a man 1400 years ago, okay, it's a good man, but what does that have to do with me? What does it have to do with me? You need to be able to connect the two, connect them with him, etc. And I remember I was at two things about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then we'll go on to the third one, and we'll do a couple more. We'll break. Another really quick side note. Two instances. One was we had a delegation of Jews and Christians, and it was supposed to be Jews, Christians, and Muslims, and a Jew and a Christian and a Muslim on the panel. It ended up somehow, don't ask me even how this happened, it ended up being me and Jews and Christians. That's it. I mean, I was cool. But we got into this whole thing about, got into this whole debate about the validity of the Torah, the Injil, the prophets, and Musa, and Isa, and Prophet Muhammad, the Quran, this, that, and the other. I said, it was just getting out of hand. I was like, hold on, wait a second, wait, let's just stop for a second. Just let me ask everyone a question. Ask everyone a question. I looked at the Jews, I said, you guys believe in Musa, alayhi salam, right? Yes. So do the Christians, so do we. I said, did Musa have miracles? Yes. He had miracles. I asked the Christians, did Musa have miracles? Yeah, he had miracles. We believe he had miracles. And I asked all of the Jews in the room, I want someone to raise their hand for anyone who saw the miracles of Musa. You witnessed them with your eyes. Did you witness the miracles of Musa with your eyes? Of course, no one's going to raise their hand. So how do you know